Welcome back to Simple Truth, talking about the story of Joseph, talking about the interpretation of two fellow prisoners' dreams, right? And Joseph says to them, listen, God is in charge of interpretation of dreams, so please tell me. We pick it up in verse 9, and it says, so the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph, and he said, in my dream, there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and I pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. Then Joseph said to him, this is its interpretation. Notice, there's no hesitation. There's no, this is my interpretation. Hey, this might be the way that it is. It's kind of, sort of, could be. Nope. He outright says, this isn't the interpretation. Well, how could he do that? Because he knew that his God was the interpreter. Notice, Joseph also doesn't say, hey, can I go pray about it for a couple days? Let me think about it for a few days. Let me come back to you in a couple days. Let me seek God on this. Right? Nope. Joseph just interprets the dream. It's funny because I think we've all been there in times where somebody tells us something and immediately something pops in our head in response to that, and we don't know how it got there, and we don't know what it's about, and it wouldn't be normally how we thought about it, and we're just like, hey, yeah, this is what it means, right? Sometimes God works that way. That's why we want to be listening to other people. It's why we want to be interactive with other people, right? This whole idea that God only talks to me, well, that's a true statement in nature, that God talks to you about you. He's not going to go tell somebody else about all of your problems, right? So that they can tell it to somebody else, to tell it to somebody else. No, God's going to always work with you first, right? But in this case, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the interpretation of a dream. God sent a message that needed to be unlocked by other people. Now I'm going to get stuck, right? Because that is a fantastic concept, right? The concept that there are things in your life that God has given you that need to be unlocked by other people. Isn't that the concept that Jesus did to 12 fishermen and tax collectors and zealots and whatever it was that Judas was, right? God put stuff within them. He prepped within them the things that they were going to need, right? So much so that Jesus looked at Peter and said, I'm going to build my church on you, right? You've already been prepped, right? And you're so important to this mission that the enemy has asked to sift you. The enemy ahead of time has asked for the authority to sift you. Why in the world would Jesus say that that was okay? Why would God say to Satan, yep, go ahead, sift Peter? Why wouldn't God protect? That's what you and I think all the time. Because God says that the sifting process has value. It gets rid of all the goofy, dorky stuff. When you and I go through the hard times of life, right? It's a sifting process. And what happens is God is getting rid of all the other stuff that doesn't need to be there. The stuff that gets in the way between you and God. Peter had a whole bunch of things that got in the way between him and God. His whole time with Jesus was the sifting process of that, right? Same thing with Joseph, right? That there was a sifting process that needed to happen. Stuff needed to be removed, refined, and added so that God could do what he purposed in Joseph's life. And what happens is in those things, different situations, different people, they unlock things within us. Joseph didn't know that he was leader capability-lizationalistic. Oh, that's a fantastic word, right? Joseph didn't know that he had those leadership skills within him. He's the 11th out of 12 brothers, right? He's going to hang out the rest of his life. That's what he's going to do until he becomes a dad and has his own place, right? But you look at that and say, what happened? The events unlocked that which was in Joseph, right? So these dreams get unlocked, right? The interpretation. So at church, at home, there are things that God has for you. And as you share them with other people, right? It unlocks it. For years, I've had this whole vision thing about owning a castle. And almost everybody that I run into, literally, or talk to it about, they say, Annie, that's so good. That's so funny. And then they're like, but that's a little unrealistic and you need to focus on the realistic. Why does God give you a dream? But then every once in a while, you meet people who help unlock that dream. They're like, yeah, let's do it. Why can't we do it? Right? I had a chance one time to sit with a pastor, and he said to me, Andy, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to own a Christian bar. I want to run a Christian bar. I think it's a fantastic concept, and I would love to do that. And he looked at me and he said, okay, let's do it. And I was dumbfounded. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And within 3 weeks, we had the whole plan of how to do it. The place, God opened up a place. God opened up the resources. God did everything to open up the flip side. It was crazy in nature, right? So we look at those things and say, sometimes we just need to be talking to the right person, right, at the right moment, and then that unlocks. I had the chance to talk to a woman last night with a couple other people, and she's starting to tell us about some of her giftings in church, and she was really hesitant as to wanting to tell it, and she didn't know whether we believed in it and whether we were going to be for it. And by the end of that conversation, I'm giving her permission, saying, hey, in our church, you have permission to use that gift any time that God says use it, right? Why? Because it's going to benefit. So she's telling us by the end of the night, it's unlocked within her, right? That's this idea, right? Joseph was just the key, right, to unlocking that which God had given these two men. So the cupbearer gets some good news, right? Then, so I love the next part of this because it just makes me giggle, right? It says this, when the chief, wait, hold on. Look at verse 14. We should probably finish this, right? 14 says, only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house, for I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into this pit. Right? So we talked about pit buddies the other day. Here's another example, by the way, of that. But we were looking at this, and what does Joseph say to them? Hey, I just unlocked this within you. How about if you remember me? Right? Remember me in the future, right? Verse 16 says, when the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable. Do you know how often this line happens? Do you know how often people look and they say, hey, you did this for this person. How about if you do this for me? Now, listen, I'm going to leave you with a tease and say, hey, I'm going to do this next week because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get stuck on this idea, right, of favorable interpretations. But I want to go back and challenge you to a simple truth. Are you allowing other people to unlock that which is inside of you, right? Again, God is unlocking it at the right time, at the right moment, with the right person, right? He's unlocking the gift within you, right? But are you looking for that? Are you allowing that to happen? Are you sitting, begging God, praying for him to do great things within you? And when are you going to do something, God? And how are you going to do something? And he's like, duh, the person over here has the key. Why aren't you letting them unlock this for you, right? And you're looking at them and saying, like, no, it doesn't come from you. It hasn't been written in the sky. Didn't come down as manna from heaven. He's like, yeah, no, it's like a key. It's like right next to you. The person has it. And you're like, no, I don't want that, right? Are you letting people interpret what God has for you, being the key for you, right? Are you seeking those opportunities? The flip side of that is equally as true. Are you being a key for other people, right? Are you sitting in church? Are you sitting in studies? Are you sitting at home? Are you sitting at work? Are you sitting at the beach? And you're tuning into God, and God says, hey, buddy, see that person, 2 blankets over on the beach? The one that you're trying not to look at, right? Hey, that person needs some prayer. Could you go over there, right? And could you do that? Right? Could you go over there and just pray for that person? And immediately we're gonna be like, I'm on a beach. I can't do that. Like, that's inappropriate. We can't go over two towels down, right? Look at how I'm dressed. Look at what's gonna look like. Look at what's being. God's like, what are you talking about? I'm asking you to join me in work. I'm working 2 towels down. Get up and go work with me. And we're like, no. It's got to be somebody else's work. So I'll get my wife to do it. I'll get my son to do it, or I'll get my or it must be. Sorry, wrong message. It's the mailbox down here further. God, we find a lot of reasons to say, God, I know I might have a key for people, but I just want to choose who that is, when I use it, where I use it. Sometimes we withhold the key from people on purpose, right? Sometimes we know exactly what this moment's going to do. Forgiveness is going to free. Forgiveness is going to let go of this stuff, and we don't want to let go of it, right? So we don't want to. So we throw the key out. It's funny how often the key comes back to us, right? We bury it in the ground. It's funny how often God says, hey, go dig that back up, right? We do whatever it takes to make sure that we're not being the key to free people. So, do you need a key? That's my simple truth today.